All cameras rolling. Episode 2. Action in 3, 2.
Do I start off?
I don't know. I guess so.
Hey everyone, it's episode 2,
Yes.
and I think we actually came up with a name for this specific playlist
I think
and
so.
podcast.
Mhm.
And what is it, Sid?
It's spilling the tea with F&B.
Yes, it's Spilling the Tea with F&B. So it's about what we will be sharing here with all of the questions that you may have in products and about what we do in terms of what we, obviously sell and advertise and those type of things and what you guys want to learn. But at the same time, more about the culture here at F&B. A lot to do with who we are, what we do, how we operate as a company, and we would like to share that with everybody. So
We would.
yeah.
All right, so one of our team members, actually he's one of the ones that are filming us right now, he was such a joy to interview because he asked such amazing questions that were really thought-provoking, I felt. And so I asked him to ask us questions. And so one of the questions here, I think I have 5, are, have you always had the idea to start F&B?
So mind you, these questions were written up about 5 minutes ago.
It's true.
So I am really going to
Facts.
speak from the heart and basically.
That's preferable.
Yeah, say how it is. So did I always think that I was going to start F&B? No. The answer is no, but at the same time, yes. I've always envisioned myself starting my own business. What kind of business? What would it be? Eventually, what would turn out? I had no idea that would, basically be F&B and be where we are today. But yes, I've always envisioned early on at a very young age that my career would be starting something on my own for sure. Okay, so I mean, with that being said, I think F&B, just to give you guys a heads up in terms of how it all started, it's actually quite interesting. So after I basically graduated from school, I joined the corporate world. I was actually in finance. I think I mentioned this a few times in the past with our live feeds and those type of things that I shared about myself. But I originally started in finance, and I did corporate accounting, corporate finance. So a lot of forecasting and that type of work. After a couple of years, I realized that I definitely did not have the passion in it, and there's nothing wrong with that career path. A lot of people do find passion in it, I obviously enjoyed the first couple of years, and then I just came to realize that, hey, I wanted to do something else, right? So what had and I've also shared this a few times. I come from a divorced family, so my parents split up when I was in about my teens, right? So after that, my father, he ended up learning about the craft, the jewelry business, and he eventually basically started his own jewelry business. Okay, so during this time of transition between after I had graduated and I went to finance and all these different things, and well, how was I going to break out and do my own thing? Okay, so that was the question. I was like, okay, well, if I'm gonna go ahead and just no longer work and do what I'm doing, and mind you, it was a very cushy job, all right? What was I going to do? So at that point in time, I reached out to my dad, and I had asked him, I'm trying to do something else. I don't know much about the jewelry business, but what do you think? How do you feel about it? And is this something that you're willing to share with me and help me guide through this process to see if that's something I can learn and potentially see if that's something that I might be passionate about doing? So then my father basically obviously took me under his wing. He taught me a few things. He showed me a few connections with a few people. He lives in Orange County. So when I went down there, for a lot of people that don't know about the jewelry business, especially in America, the two biggest, jewelry areas, if you will, is in downtown LA and in New York City. Okay, so I made a few connections down there, and my father basically launched his own jewelry store up here in San Jose, California. I would say about 8 to 9 years ago, almost 10 years ago. Okay, and that's where I came out there to help him out in his store. Okay, so that's pretty much how it started. It was me, my father, my sister, and my brother, and a few people that was working with us. Okay. And we did that for a couple of years. Well, not a couple of years, I'm sorry. We did that for maybe about a year or so. The business didn't turn out too well. Okay, so a lot of this stuff, I'm not sure if I even shared it with you, Sid. I think I shared some stuff with you, but in terms of like in very detail, I'm not sure if I ever actually went into this much detail with you. But
we're here to spill the tea, so spill the tea.
Spill the tea. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I'm gonna do. And so yeah, I mean, I think it was a very interesting take at that point in time, only because I was constantly debating with myself, like, should I go back, to this cushy job, or should I continue to do this thing? It doesn't look like it's working out. It's working on the beginning, but then the customers are no longer. There's a lot that goes into a business, from sales and marketing, finance, and books, and all these different things that you have to do, and bills, right? You have to pay your bills, you have to pay your employees, you have to put make sure the lights turn on, you have to do all these different things, right? So
It's true.
yeah, so and my father, he was here just for a short time. His heart's always been back in Orange County. He opened a store up here for a short time, so when he had left, it was pretty much me and my sister. Okay, and that pretty much ran the shop. Over time, with my finance background, I pretty much was able to read the writing on the wall and say, hey, this is probably not going to work out the way we're running the business. So at that point in time, my sister and I decided to split up the business. Okay, so this is way before I ever met you, Sid, right? So
I think you did mention this.
Yeah, so we end up splitting the business. So in terms of just right in half. Okay, she ended up keeping the store. I was able to keep some of the inventory. Okay, at that point in time, my wife and I was married. She was pregnant at the time. Okay, and then after, obviously I had my first son when he was only about a little less than a year old. I decided, hey, if I'm going to do this for the long term, I need to know what I'm talking about. So that's when I decided to say, hey, I'm going to go to GIA, the Gemological Institute of America. Now, that was a very, very, very tough decision on my end. Not because it's tough to just pick up and leave and learn. I've always been one to really like to learn and indulge in new things. And I'm very big on challenging myself. But the tough part was to leave my family, because GIA, there's only 2 locations in the U.S. One is in New York, and one is close by San Diego, Carlsbad. Okay, so since I live in Northern California, hey, it's one of those things where I can't just pick up and leave. But then we decided, my wife, she's definitely she is my biggest supporter, and she said, hey, if you are going to do it, the time to do it is now, right? So I said, okay, and this is what I told her. I said, hey, if I do ever go, you have to be very strong, because if you ever show a sign of weakness, I'm just going to pick up and leave. I'm just going to go back home. So even on the days that are tough, especially with just you and Matt, while I'm down there, you have to be extremely strong. Okay.
She is very strong.
So she told me this after when I got back, just not to get off track with the story here, but there were times where she really wanted to tell me that she wanted me to come home, but she was strong enough not to say it. So because she knew I would have just left, it would have been an easy decision on my end. Say, hey, it's fine, So, but here's the crazy part that I probably never shared with you ever. Okay, so, yeah, it's the guys in the back are making some funny gestures. Now,
I don't want to clean that up after, so I'm just gonna give you a preview.
So
also, it's water in there. We'll get tea in there eventually. Hey,
Eventually.
sponsor us, tea company.
Yeah, tea.
All right. Go on.
I have a few companies that might sponsor us from a tea perspective, but never mind. I'm just kind of talking to myself. Anyway,
Normal day at the office.
yeah. We get off the sidetracked here. But when I was down there, mind you, this was right after the recession. The job market was really bad. Again, my wife and I, we have almost a 1-year-old son. I had left. There was really no income. Linda works, right? But then, obviously in the Bay Area, it's extremely expensive. We needed, double income. The inventory that I was able to split with between my sister and I brought it with me. Okay, it was in a duffel bag the whole time. And during this time, I started my own business on eBay. Okay, this is how it pretty much started from the get-go. Okay, it started from eBay. I was pretty much selling moissanite. Okay, and rings that I received from the split, and I was setting these rings. I was networking down there while I was going to school, and while I was studying, and thank God for the iPhone, right? I would get these notifications of customers that were interested. I would be working and studying at the same time. So during lunch breaks, I would just tell my classmates, "Hey, I can't make it." Basically, what I was doing is I was going back to that little room that I had rented to live down there for a short time, to pretty much process orders and run to the post office to ship it out. So that was what I was doing.
What?
Yes. That's what I was doing. That's pretty much how it started. It pretty much started out of a room in Carlsbad, California, and I was selling things pretty much out of my duffel bag. Okay.
That is something to tell the children.
Yeah. So at first, the names have changed over time online. It was initially the business that my dad started was initially KT Jewelry, so I kept that as KT Jewelry. Over time, since we purchased, I started doing so much business in moissanite. I realized that hey, there's a trend here. There's something more to it here. The people in the modern world have so much more information that people are not tied down to an old belief. And again, there's nothing wrong with diamonds or traditional jewelry, but there's also a thing called information, free information online that people right can easily research. And I quickly found out that there was a huge demand for moissanite. So I created my own shop on eBay, and I was selling things out of a duffel bag that I pretty much left under my bed, locked the doors every day, hoping that no one would actually run in there and steal pretty much everything I had, because it took me a long time to build up, right? So yes, I was selling out of my room from a duffel bag under my bed for a few months, and then that's how much I was able to pay for GIA. Because it's a very expensive program to go there and to be able to also support my family. So with that being said, obviously after the GIA, I came back and it was the next step, right? And I had talked to Linda. What do I do? Where do we go from here? Okay, I got my education. I understand what to look for. Where do we go from here? And that's when I had asked Linda. The business was growing pretty rapidly, and I said, okay, well, I don't want to just sell off of eBay alone. I want to be able to start our own website, create our own things, create our own products, eventually grow a real business. So what should we call it? Initially, I think you might have known this, we called it Moissanite Brilliance. We called it, a few other names. Matter of fact, we even opened a showroom called Ace of Diamonds, right? I
know that place very
well. So a few names had come to fruition, and then Linda was the one who said, well, what about Fire and Brilliance? Fire and Brilliance really showcases what moissanite is.
She's the one that came up with it.
She's the one who came up with Fire and Brilliance.
Nice.
With Fire and Brilliance. So, when the business started really growing, when I say really growing, I meant enough to support Linda and I. And I told her, hey, just quit your job, right? Which was extremely another risky thing to do, right? So risky. And I just told her, worst case scenario, we could always go back to work. All right, so I told her, hey, just quit your job and see what we can build here, because I need someone that could actually be my support system, but at the same time really have the passion in running a business as much as I do, because we are extremely hard workers. We'll work 18 hours a day, no problem, right? So So that's what we did, and then that's when we opened Ace of Diamonds, and that's when Sid came along, right? So all of that had happened before you, Sid. So yeah, so Sid is actually the first employee
Hi.
of of Fire and Brilliance. So I mean, you might, I'm not sure if you wanted to share anything about your experience in the beginning of how it was done, but that's pretty much how it had happened prior to hiring you.
Well, I think the full story would probably be in another episode somewhere.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I think the last words I ended the last episode with was, "This is so surreal,"
Mhm.
because I don't know, just walking around this huge office that did not exist before with other people. The fact that there's other people walking around with us, and seemingly enjoying their jobs, enjoying like helping people, enjoying working day to day. And it's not just a day job. For a lot of people here, I see conviction. I see at the end of the day, people still want to spend a little bit more time to perfect whatever they're working on for their roles. And oftentimes, since we have such a small team, I think we're like 14 to 15 people now, a lot of times, where was I going with this? A lot of times, I see that people are working past, 5, 6, whenever we end the shop for the day, and I see that they, want to put in a little bit more effort to actually genuinely help and put the customers first. And we try to build relationships with people, not just here, but out there, and that's what I feel is very genuine about the company. Fire and Brilliance is a perfect way to sum up who we are, because we're all about the pretty things that sparkle underneath the sun. Anything and everything. Anything you dream up, jewelry, we love it all. We really tried to push this unbiased message out there because we want to provide as many options as possible.
All the options.
Yes, all the options possible for anybody that's interested in jewelry at all, because there is so much out there, and why should you be limited? Why should you feel limited?
Right.
So that's why we create this beautiful environment to work in. And I'm so proud to be a part of this. Sorry, I'm gonna get teary-eyed if I talk about this anymore. But I feel that I am very proud to work for this company. I've seen us grow from just 3 people inside a tiny office into our own
very
huge
tiny.
unit. It was super tiny. It was actually the size of this office, probably. Just
okay,
Michael's
maybe a
office.
little
Maybe
bigger.
a little bigger. Okay, maybe a little bit bigger. Maybe 3 times this. But
Yeah.
what I'm saying is that it was not nearly as big as it is now. And I remember when we were still working in that unit, that we were going out to lunch, and Linda was driving me. You were in a separate car because you had to do something else after.
Okay.
And she drove past this huge building, beautiful architecture, all glass, see-through, everything. But the whole idea was that she was pointing that building out so that she could tell me that one day Michael wants us to have our own building like that, to have it filled with people that are just as convicted as he is about this company, and that we will grow that much. And I believe it. And at first I was just these things, it takes a while for you to kind of accept, or for you to actually envision. I never would have thought we would get here this fast. And that's what is super surreal to me. Because people are just asking about how long it takes for us to reply to messages, and just the whole process. And they're actually really surprised to know that we're actually a very small team. We just work our butts off.
We do.
So that it seems like we're 100, 200 people at a time.
Right. And thanks for sharing. I really, really, really appreciate it. Because it really shows and is a testament to what we've actually committed. And I'm a big, big, big believer in you will get what you put in. So I believe that's pretty much what has happened to us in the last couple of years. Although obviously I've been building this for about 8 to 9 years. I mean, the magic has really happened in the last maybe 3 years or so. So, I mean, with that being said, I think to answer your question, circling back to the original question, did I always think that we were going to create F&B? The answer is no. But do I love what has happened through the journey? Of course. I would have never imagined in a million years that we would be where we are today, but we're nowhere near where I wanted to be. So I think with that said, I think that's where we are, and I really love the passion of our team. I'm very big on passionate people. I'm very big on people that actually care to be here rather than just trying to come for a paycheck, right? So obviously everyone has to do what they have to do, but I think in order to really make something special, everyone has to bring a little magic with them every single day, and I think everyone here is here for a reason. So yeah, that's just my take on it. Okay. With that said, I mean, what's the next question there?
Whoa. A little bell for you. All right, let's see here. I really, really like this question also. What advice would you give aspiring entrepreneurs in this age?
I would say that starting your own business is freaking scary. Okay, it's not an easy task.
Truth.
There's a lot that comes into it. From all aspects. You got to think about from a sales perspective, from a marketing perspective, from a finance perspective, from an operational perspective, from a legal perspective, from all types of perspectives. But the one piece of advice that I will always give is if you are, first of all, find out if you're actually passionate about what you want to do. Most people will do it for the money. If you can figure out whether or not you're passionate and willing to work really hard at it, to be really good at your craft, I would say that everything else will come eventually. I know it's very cliche, and I know a lot of people say that, but it's so true because it's true of my journey. Okay, so I can only speak about my journey, but the second piece of advice is if you are truly that passionate and really want it to work, then the second rule is to never quit, ever. So, but just because you don't quit doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work out. So the rule after that is if you want something you've never had, you must do something you've never done. So in other words, if it's not working, you have to change it up. You can't be stuck on one idea or have it affect your ego that, hey, that idea didn't work. You have to change and adapt. Eventually, you're going to find something that works. So yeah, those are the 3 main rules. Find something that you're passionate about, work your butt off and never quit, and always adapt. So,
is that what you would say keeps you going and I guess being able to push out all of these episodes, these like Geminar episodes, where you showcase jewelry and then also talk about it educational-wise?
Right. The F&B Geminar, we started it not too long ago. It's only about maybe a year and a month, year and 2 months or something like that. It really blossomed with an idea that I wanted to share what I knew or know to the world, right? We have this beautiful thing called the online space that we can pretty much say and share and express whatever it is that we want. When I was going to GIA, I really wanted to find something online that can teach me more about jewelry. There's obviously a lot of stuff online, but it didn't go into enough detail that I wanted to know. So what I initially thought was, hey, why not share what I know to the world? And what I specialize in is moissanite, right? Although I know about diamonds and other gemstones, what I specialize about moissanite, there just wasn't not enough information out there. And as you know, being in the business, Sid, there's a lot of taboo when it comes to moissanite or lab-created gems or these.
Oh yeah.
Right, so a lot of people are, not a lot of people, but in general, there is a population of people that are very big on sticking with the traditionals, and they hate the fact that a lab-grown gem or a gem that's man-made is being introduced to the market. So, I think. To me, so I wasn't able to find that much information online at all about lab-created gems or moissanite. So my purpose was, hey, I know a lot about it. I've been doing it for a few years. I know the ins and outs of it. I know how it works. I know what it looks like. Why aren't we spreading that message? And that was the idea. That's how it kind of blossomed over time, but that's the initial idea. And how do I find the time to do it every week? Yes, I find it very challenging. I find it very creative, and I think it gives me the extra, push, if you will, to continue to do it all the time. Because initially when I was doing it, I wasn't expecting anything in return. It's all free information, right? People are charging people
But it's
money.
like genuinely very nice of you, I will say.
Yeah.
Like you did, I mean, it's not like people watch these and there's a catch at the end of it.
Yeah.
They can do with it what they will.
Right.
But yeah, it's really nice of you.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
All right, laying on the cheese thick. All right, this is directly from EJ, okay? I did not say this. Do not quote me. Hey,
Hold on,
Michael.
What did he ask? Should we film this?
Hey, Michael.
Is that how he sounds?
All right. Well, okay.
Well, maybe
it seems like no. Okay.
Maybe EJ should jump in and ask this question then.
Maybe. Yeah. All right. Come in here.
What's up, EJ? So if you guys don't know, here's EJ from Fire and Brilliance. He's one of our cameramen, creatives in the back, media team, if you will. So, man of multiple hats.
I was gonna say look at Sid's cam.
Oh, I forgot we were filming in there. So every day we always talk about like fitness and stuff like that, and like how like you go to the gym and this and that. How do you do that? Running a business, having kids, having a wife, running this media team, doing this right now, like it's pretty intense to manage. So I just want to know.
That's much more natural coming from him. I will say. I think I made it like extra awkward.
No, I think no, because I that question, the way it was written, it made me sound pretty vain. So I'm glad that you didn't read it that way. So the way he delivered it was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Yeah,
so,
I think so.
Great question. I think going back to passion, I think if you can find something that you're passionate about, it doesn't feel as if it's taking away that much time or energy. I truly believe that in life, in anything that you want to do, there's time for it. You just gotta make time for it. So if one thing's more important than the next, then obviously you're gonna make time for the thing that's more important to you. It's just the way it works, right? How do I fit in all of these things? Well, I'll make time for it. I wake up very early in the morning. I'm up by 4:30. I hit the gym at 5 o'clock. I'm here at the office by 6:30, 7 o'clock at the latest. I'll work very late, and then I'll make sure that I get home enough that I'll save enough time to have dinner and spend a lot of time with my kids before bed. So that's pretty much how I manage my time. I make sure that I take care of myself first. Not saying that for selfish reasons, but I truly believe that the way you can take care of others is that you do have to start with yourself. So if you can take care of yourself, then you can manage everything else. So that's how I do it. I wake up early, go to the gym, work many hours, make sure that I come home before dinner, have dinner with my family, spend time with my kids, play with them, wrestle with my son. He's been asking to wrestle all the time. The other day I asked him, like, hey Matt, do you think I'm a good dad? And he said, yes. I'm like, why? He's like, because you wrestle with me. So I was like, okay, maybe that's very important to him. So I'm gonna keep wrestling with him now until it's no longer important. So, yeah,
I guess you are providing him something that he can't really get anywhere else,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like true, like bond.
Yeah, and he's so into the WWE right now. Like, he loves John Cena. Like, loves John Cena. And I told him, hey, you know, Dad, I could beat up John Cena. You haven't seen my guns yet. And then he
Wow.
said, no, you can't. John Cena has bigger muscles than you did. So, yeah. It's one of
Just
those
for
things.
reference, he's like this tall. Not to say anything, he is quite powerful. You
So
said height.
I'm not that tall of a guy. I'm about 5'10" and a half. I would say he's about half my height now. So he's probably about almost 4 feet ish.
Ah.
Yeah, a little more than half my height. Yeah.
He's gonna get taller than me in no
Right.
time. I'm like 5'1".
Yeah. So he's getting up there. He's playing a lot of sports, soccer, and all that.
hmm
Yeah.
Well, I will attest to what you said to earlier.
Mhm.
You really are here before us. You're here after us most of the time, and no one will argue.
Except on the days I want to play basketball.
That's true.
I just want to take off.
But no one will argue with the fact that you are very dedicated.
Thank you.
And with that,
We're big on puns here.
we are. We are, and then we, like, most of the time, we kind of just all want to, like, quit and leave because
Mhm.
it's a lot. It's a lot to handle.
Mhm.
But yeah, it also keeps us going. So.
Especially my dad jokes. They all just kind of roll their eyes and kind of walk away slowly.
Sometimes we
I have a
chuckle
few
just to humor you.
supporters.
All right. Well, that kind of just ends our session of questions.
Mhm.
Do you want to add anything
So
else?
yeah, so you know, the whole purpose of this episode is for you all to really kind of have a better understanding of how Fire and Brilliance really started, how we operate around here, and just a few of the personalities behind the scenes, and how we kind of make everything flow and work to make sure that we really bring out the best products and best services to the market in our space. So I hope you really enjoyed what you have listened to here. And seen. Everything okay, Sin?
Yes. I'm
I was
looking at you
afraid that
and I'm like
I was
trying
afraid
not
that you were
to.
choking on your water. You're about to spit on me. Like you're trying to hold back that itch.
I'm really graceful when I drink water.
Okay. All right. So.
In case you didn't know. I don't know. All right.
Everything good? All
Yeah,
right.
we're good.
All right. So any last words before our next episode, Sid?
I don't know if you guys have any suggestions for what we want to talk about on here. I mean, we want to cover like anything and everything. So if you guys have questions, suggestions, whatever, send them our way. We're here to spill the tea.
Spill the tea. That's the name. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Goodbye.
Bye.